The search continues at Folsom Lake for the wreckage of a 1965 plane crash. Record low lake levels have given hope that finding the lost plane may now be possible. The crash killed 4, but only 1 victim has ever been recovered. Today, both El Dorado and Placer County Sheriff's deputies, along with a private sonar team, had 3 boats on the water looking for clues.
Also in the water were volunteer divers, but as News 10's Gabriel Rojas reports, groups had difficulty working together.
Under normal conditions, no one would be able to walk this far, but drought conditions have given search teams a much deeper launching point to try to recover the small plane and its crew that crashed in 1965.
Currently, with the water levels being as low as it is, we have the right depths and we have the right weather conditions. Everything cooperating, we're able to get down a lot deeper and see a lot more.
Chris Anthon is one of about 10 volunteer divers on this 3rd day of searching for the wreckage.
My expectation is that the tail half of the plane is off, that we have 1 wing and the fuselage intact, deteriorated of course, and the possibility of 2, if not 3, bodies within it.
Finding it will be difficult. Visibility is already a challenge, and unlike the tree stumps now visible, beneath the water is a different picture.
The problem with it is the trees, being that they're full-growth oaks and cypress trees, there's a lot of noise that creates on the sonar, and so that actually creates a white filter, so they're not able to get down to the depth.
But that's not the only problem. The 3 boats using sonar are identifying points of interest, but Anthon says he and the rest of the divers don't know where those points are.
We are willing to assist them to dive down to the locations which they identify and verify if it is or if it is not.
But that's not the way it's working now?
Correct.
How's it working now?
Currently, they're identifying it and they're keeping the information to themselves.
In a statement sent to News 10, a spokesperson for the El Dorado Sheriff stressed that the volunteer divers were not part of their joint operation with Placer County. They went on to say, quote, "The goal of the operation today is for any signs of the plane crash and/or victims to be located in the safest and most efficient manner possible."
We spoke to them about it this morning, and they did not want to take on the liability of our divers.
Nonetheless, Anthon says his group will continue their search as long as they can until the wreckage is found.
The biggest part to the reward will be for us to give that back to the family to allow them to have closure.
At Folsom Lake, Gabriel Rojas, News 10.
A spokesperson for the El Dorado Sheriff tells us they have wrapped up efforts for today. They say they were able to gather a lot of information from the sonar, but they'll have to do more work before they feel safe putting divers in the areas they've searched.
Due tonight, authorities are investigating
right now.
Searching for the crash. Nearly 50 years after a plane crashed into Folsom Lake, a search team goes looking again due to the low water levels. And today, they hit on something that could be a potential clue. The low water levels at Folsom Lake has helped rekindle a search for the small plane and 3 passengers that disappeared back in 1965. Now, for a 3rd straight day, a team of deputies and volunteers were out at the lake. That is where KCRA 3's Kevin Oliver is live right now. And Kevin, what is it that they found?
Well, they used a sonar scan and they found some large objects in some particular areas that they say look out of place. But if you look around me, you'll see that this area, which was underwater, is covered in rock and some dried mud. But down in those areas where they were looking, they said it was covered in silt. And what they don't know is whether these objects underneath that silt are parts of the plane, large boulders, or just trees. Exhausted after the 3rd full day of searching, authorities pulled their boats out of Folsom Lake. With the water levels dramatically lower than normal, searchers were hoping to find the wreckage of a small plane with the remains of 3 people possibly still inside. They can't say they found the plane, but they didn't leave empty-handed.
We are going to regroup. There's several images that were captured in various points in the lake that we will go ahead and evaluate.
The plane crashed into the water between the dam and Beals Point on New Year's Day, 1965. Volunteer divers set out to help after talking to relatives of the passengers still missing.
You could see in their faces when we were talking with them this morning that they really want to be able to
bring it to an end.
Even though the water levels are down, the divers said they could barely see anything.
The visibility was so bad, usually we'd run into the tree branches before we'd actually see them.
The search crew said since the fuselage was badly damaged and has been sitting underwater for nearly half a century, they aren't sure even what shape to be looking for. But a number of people standing along the shoreline said even though they didn't know the victims, it might be the one upside to this shrinking lake.
I suspect it's going to get lower and lower, and eventually they'll find whatever they're looking for, I'm sure.
Now, the search crews actually sent down a small robotic camera and used that to bump into some of these objects to see if they could knock the silt off. When they did, they just found more silt underneath. They're now going to evaluate the images that they did get, look at the water levels in the lake, possibly look at some of the flows through the dam, and reevaluate when they're going to come back out here and try again. Reporting live from Folsom Lake, Kevin Oliver, KCRA 3 News.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. And let's bring